Walt is a seasoned industry veteran with decades of experience in film and media production, currently leading innovative projects at OVFX. His expertise spans cutting edge technologies like Unreal Engine, AI driven workflows, and next generation production pipelines, making him a trailblazer in the evolving landscape of digital content creation.
Wow,
Welcome,
that's awesome. Thank you,
Walt.
man. That's pretty awesome. That's a first for
It's a
me.
pleasure to have you. It's a
Yeah,
pleasure to
thank you
have
for
you.
having me, man.
And
Appreciate it.
well, how do you see the balance between traditional artistry and advancing technology evolving in the next 5 years?
Um, well, if you're good, you don't have anything to worry about. That's where I'm at right now. In terms of, um, a lot of folks, and it's funny, I was just looking at a big thread and they were talking about AI versus artistry. And I'm of the big opinion of that. It's a tool like anything else. I remember when we got silicon graphics machines in the office for the first time, and how there was such a outcry in terms of quality of work and whether or not it's going to change how we do things. And it kind of changed how we did things, but at the end of the day, we still were the core of making it do what it had to do to make it cool, to make it work, and viable. If anything, we're using those tools to expand upon what we're already doing. So it's like no one here has lost their job to it or anything like that. If anything, we're using it to be able to make our prototypes or our productions faster, a bit more efficient. So, if anything, in the next 5 years, I see streamlining. I see a confluence of ideas being able to get put together faster. I mean, we're already doing that with the likes of Unreal Engine and the early entrances of AI in terms of being able to generate 3D models based off of illustrations. I mean, we started there. That's working out pretty well for us. Heck, you say 5 years, I say in the next 2 years, you're going to start seeing feature films. It'll probably start with feature shorts. You're already seeing the feature shorts. Right now, they're averaging around 2, 3 minutes, but they're going to get longer. I would say the biggest challenge now in terms of AI is action sequences, but you're going to have to draw out and choreograph and create it. You just can't type in a prompt, make character fight, and then get something that's going to be viable and people are going to watch. There's a huge amount
Hmm.
of back end in terms of make sure your likenesses are correctly, your lore models are correct. Then you also still have the thing of storyboards and timing. Even if you had a tool that could do the AI storyboards for you, you still have to make the story for it. You still have to do the timing for it. There's so many things that you as a human being still have to incorporate into it to get the most out of something that's an assisted on steroids, so to speak. I mean, it's mega stories as far as I'm concerned. Um, so if anyone is very afraid of it now, I hate to tell you, it's not going anywhere. It's only going to get better. So if you're intimidated by this type of thing, you might want to type and pick another industry to go into because it's not going away.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Picking another industry would actually involve them making a decision and moving on it,
Yeah,
and
that's true. That's the other thing.
that's
Yeah,
what they're afraid of doing.
yeah,
And,
that's
and
right.
and if you're not willing to embrace change, Walt, I think that's the real killer here. Like I was just looking into a case study the other day. Typewriters. So when typewriters went extinct, um, people, there were two types of companies: those that stayed there, or ones that actually evolved and transitioned and pivoted it into,
Absolutely.
digital type of
Yeah.
keyboards, right? Or
Uh-huh.
fax machines or whatever. And then there was this other one which really just doubled down into typewriters. And what they did was just buy whatever stock that was available right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
And now, years on, decades on, they're one of the few in New York that are still surviving
Still in there.
and
They
still,
found a niche.
and
They
they've
turned into
raised
an
their prices.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it turns it more into a boutique type of thing that's a niche as opposed to actually being a necessity. I mean, there's nothing like. I mean, I grew up in the era of typewriters, and there's nothing like that tactile feel. And I mean, there is a experience behind it. But when the word processor came about, that was it. So, and it's kind of funny you mentioned that Technicolor. If you Technicolor recently went out of business. Or not out of completely out, but they've really cut back their operations significantly. They were a group that never really transitioned from what they were doing, and then when the digital era came about, they were pretty much a day too short or a day late in terms of transitioning to that new technology and getting used to it. So um, now it's by the wayside, and then groups like NPC, they also suffer as a result. So we're really starting to see a shift in things in terms of like how business is done, how many people are holding on to it. So it's a very rocky time right now, but it won't be like that forever. Once these technologies start to begin to get stabilized and you get more people not only just accepting it but understanding how it works, I think we'll get a better line of it. Like case in point here, I was the only person that actually kind of believed in it or was trying it out, but now I've got my lead technical animator and my producer. They're very much been bought into the situation of, oh, that's how we can use this to make things better. So it's, we're starting to adapt and make it work for us as opposed to fighting it.
Absolutely, and I think the key word here is adapt, right? Sometimes you need to adapt more than other times,
Yeah,
but this is one where you do
this
out of
is
necessity.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it
I
is. And then,
see.
and you said out of
Yeah.
necessity, like case in point, we got quoted to do an episode. Roughly, one of our business partners wanted roughly $1 million an episode, and our publishing partner was like, "There's no way in the world we're going to pay that. Half of that per episode, but it's not going to be 1 million." So it's like, how are we going to figure out how to make that work? And we ended up going with the AI solution to start creating either the 3D, not the 3D models, because we still have to rely on our illustrators and our concept artists to make that work. But once we had that, we were able to pipeline through the models that we were creating through either Comfy UI and be able to generate 3D models based off of those illustrations. Then I can easily bring something like that into ZBrush, and then I can make a new model based off of that silhouette. Because one of the major things to get is, especially for 3D, is to make sure you can get the silhouette right. Once you got the silhouette right, we can bring it into something like ZBrush and then create like the proper edge loops or the actual format. Then we can like sculpt extra details on top of it. But it still saves a ton of time in the process.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of business, what are you currently working on in the business in terms of really bringing in new projects and getting the ones that you have done right,
So in terms of
attracting
business,
new ones?
oh, attracting new ones, yeah, for us it's always a
Yeah.
pitch. We're constantly pitching different titles or different concepts to Hollywood. Now our main IP is Kulapari Army of Frogs. That's been on Netflix and Hulu for 3 seasons now. So we
Right.
go in normally with that as our start, but we're getting from the likes of the Hulu and the Netflix is that they want properties that are already contained. They don't want to develop anything. We're more and more coming into situations where they want a final product being presented to them that then they can buy. It's almost like trying to find the next baby shark in a lot of ways. So for us, we really have to compartmentalize and come up with the art direction, the budget, the look of it. Well, that's the art direction part of it. There's a lot of combinations of pieces that we used to rely on a studio to help us with. That now they are wanting to make sure that that is all spoken for before we even start. And so they're pretty much literally writing you a check and then expecting a product back. That's where it's going now. It's no longer a group actually helping you develop it along with it. That's one of the biggest changes I've seen most recently.
How's that affecting the business right now? Is it positive, negative, challenging?
Yeah, it is challenging. I would say it's a negative in that we don't need as many people, so we have had to make cutbacks because our budgets have gotten tighter as a result to make those tools. But it wasn't as a result because AI came across. We had to cut those tools because AI tools came across. We had to cut people. That wasn't the case. It was more of the lines that we just didn't have anything for them to do. One of the things with being in the creative field is that we have a constant burn rate going on here. So we have to have something to produce or to show or to justify that person or that position. And if we don't have anything for either a artist or a background artist or a production assistant to do for a month, we're pretty much taking on that. I don't want to consider it as a burden, but we're taking on that responsibility in hopes of finding something down the line for them. And we really can't work in that type of setup because it goes against our profit setup. So that's
So,
a harsh reality of it, but yeah.
yeah, that is actually quite consistent with a lot of media production agencies and companies that don't work off of retainers, right? So when they're working project by project, becomes really challenging to build predictability for the next month even. And so, have you ever, with that regard, tried to find solutions that do require ongoing work?
For us, it's normally the person or the talent. The best way that we've been able to try to circumvent that is just finding the right person for the job, meaning that we normally are generalists here. I like to say that we hire artists, but before we hire artists, we hire problem solvers. So a lot of our situations is it's not necessarily a skill in a certain position as much as having a skill to figure out something. So we end up finding that we end up retaining those type of people because they seem to have a more open-minded approach to things, to be able to want to try things out, as opposed to being very stagnant and saying, no, I need it to work like this in order for me to be successful. So we look for that type of mindset first and foremost, and we've been a lot more successful with those type of people in terms of venturing and finding new opportunities or new technologies or new production pipelines to make things work.
Absolutely. And so what's coming up for the next 6 to 12 months then, Walt?
For us in particular, I would say for
Yeah.
us, it's we are in the process of using Unreal Engine to make a full production movie. So for us right now, it's we're in the we just finished the pre-production stage where we had animatics and using full-blown video game engines to do feature films. But that's pretty much what's in our early future, and it's kind of amazing on that end. Some of the VFX that we're able to produce, where it used to be teams of a couple hundred people, we're now producing that with teams of roughly 10 to 20 people. It's depending on the shot, but it's a very interesting place to be in terms of what we have to do next, which is motion capture groups, and then having that motion capture as the base or foundation of our animation, and then handing that to our animators to then start to drive the performance, and then handing it back to the technical artists, who then hand it over to the lighters, who then render it. There's a lot that's going to be going on in the next 10 to 12 months for us on that end. But yeah, a lot of what we'll be doing in the near future revolves around doing Unreal Engine or real-time rendering.
Interesting. And how is that gonna, is that a shift from what you used to do, or is it
Yes, that's a big shift in terms of like how we used
same
to render
workflow?
things.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, well, that's the thing is that this, in terms of movie production, we're more so when you compare it to previous times. Our biggest thing would be renders. So I come from an era when we'd have to render a frame. It would take a good 15, 20 hours for a single frame to render. Now we get that single frame in roughly a minute to 20 minutes. The real-time rendering factor has considerably changed how we do our pipeline. It can actually affect or make decisions within the process of creating it. So it used to be
Hmm.
that we would have to have layers of production go on, and having tools like Unreal Engine or real-time assets allow us to do multiple things at once. Like for instance, we used to be able to have to skin, weight, and rig our characters all prior and make sure that they go through these different motion tests. And now we still have to do that, but that motion or that method used to take roughly a month. Now we go through that whole process in about a week. So it's and those are for hero characters that are going to be highly scrutinized and very upfront to the camera. It's that part is significantly changed for us.
So changing these workflows, let me ask you, what's more important than anything else right now to you, and why? Like in terms of
Speed.
new speed, and how's that affect your new business development?
Speed and money, and speed and it works with how much you're actually working with. So I would say they go hand in hand in that end. So where it used to take us maybe 2 weeks to do a previs for a shot, we can do that same. We can do that same shot in roughly 2 days, 3 days now. In some instances, a couple hours, and that's mainly because we have higher-end particle systems. I mean, we have video cards that push millions of polygons per second, so we can take advantage of that type of thing. Um, but those are the major factors for us: speed and cost, and then staying within that budget. Because if we can stay within that budget, it makes the investors more comfortable. One of the last things they want to see is start us bleeding off and not being able to stay on target.
Yeah.
The new technology allows us to do that and keep us actually a little bit ahead. So that's always been my philosophy: try to stay a little ahead of everything else.
What do the investors want to see overall?
Overall, at the end of the day, they want to see a final film. But I would say in the first or early parts of the investors, I would say they want to see progress. They want to see progress in terms of a pipeline that is actually solid and then that is provable, and that we can get those looks or get the final render or final pixel look to be constant from frame 1 to frame 10,001. So that would say those would be the biggest things for us on that end.
Right. And so what are the biggest sort of hurdles now going into 2025, and really even thinking about 2026? What are you thinking as a business on how to survive, restructure?
Thing, how are you using your technology? I would say that's the biggest thing. How to take advantage of these new video cards that are coming out and need all of these CUDA cores and stuff to make things work. I would say that would start it there because if your machines or your network is incorrect, then you're dead in the water to begin with. Because that's one of the infrastructure that you do need right off the bat, especially when you go to scale. Right now we have a small team, but when I actually have to go to large scale and have a couple, 120 people to handle, I have to make sure that that data pipeline is robust enough to withstand that. Having things in place like a decent tool like Perforce. Perforce is a system management tool or a version control. You absolutely need something like that if you're going to any modern endeavor or anything. You should have some sort of version control, even if it's a USB or a backup or something. You need something. But for us, we're using NAS servers for that, and a little bit of cloud computing or cloud storage. But where we're at, we're in a renovated part of Baltimore City, so our infrastructure for internet isn't the most robust. So we needed something that our vendors could get to without having to deal with the infrastructure that we have
Mm.
here. So the solution for that was cloud or cloud storage. So for us, we're using a combination of cloud storage on either Google or Amazon sites, and then having our peripheral servers linked to that, which then links to our main server here. And so that's how we're able our outside clients to work at. So excuse me. Yeah. So to answer Clark a little bit, answer your question a little bit more, it's you have a core group of people here that really know what they're doing, that have their best specializations in place, problem solvers before anything else, and then you have your outside vendors or relationships that you've established that you can keep going back to whenever you need an extra expertise. Like for instance, we needed better phonetics for the visuals for our character's mouth, and we tried it here a couple times, but we really weren't getting what we needed. We could keep spinning at the wheel, but what we ended up doing is going to one of our outside vendors who's a specialist in phonetics and all that good stuff, and he got us back what we needed in less than a week. So do I want to spend that money less than a week, or do I want to spend his full salary for a year trying to get it done? It's that type of thing, so you go balancing that a lot.
Interesting. And finally, coming down to the end, there, Walt, if you had a magic wand and you could give it a big Disney wish just
Hmm.
before your holiday away and vacation away, what would that one thing be that you try to solve internally within the business, really trying to maximize the number of clients you could, lock in, and investors you could lock in, and the number of projects that you can lock in the coming years? What would that one thing be?
I would say a database that database of talent that I could quickly disseminate and be able to assign different actions to or different responsibilities. I'm of the opinion of don't spend time doing things you're bad at. So trying
Yeah,
to find the right people and
yeah.
put them in spaces where they can be successful, and then making sure that you're supporting them. That would be a big thing
Mm.
for me because normally one person can't do everything. We're making this movie, and even though it's a small crew, and it might be the vision of Trevor Price who started it, it was a large amount of people at the foundation that had to get it to where it is now. So yeah, access to really good people. That would be the magic wand for something like that would be my first thing. So
Amazing.
yeah,
I agreed. Like just A-level talent all
yeah.
over is just amazing. This has been lovely, Walt. Thank you
Chris,
so much. It's been a pleasure.
thank you, Jaguar. Appreciate